with 19-year-old Clara Whitfield standing inside her father's parlor while the late afternoon sun slants through dusty curtains and paints long gold lines across the floor and across her trembling hands. The air is warm, yet Clara feels cold in the corners of her bones because she already knows that whatever her father is about to say will not be something she can escape. She has lived her whole life under the weight of his decisions, and this moment will be no different. Her father, a once respected ranch owner now burdened by heavy debt, stands before her with shoulders that sag in a way she has never noticed before. His voice is rough as he tells her that the Whitfield ranch is close to being taken by the bank, and the only reason it has not been seized already is because he struck a bargain that involves her future, her freedom, and her heart. Clara feels her breath catch as he explains that she is to marry Lone Hawk, an Apache horse breeder known throughout the territory for his unmatched skill with wild mustangs and a reputation that makes townsfolk lower their voices whenever his name is spoken. Clara does not shout or argue because she knows her father will not listen, and she knows desperation has taken away what little kindness he once carried. She thinks of her mother who died too young and how alone she has felt ever since, and in that moment a strange quiet settles over her like a blanket too heavy to lift. She realizes that her life is no longer something she can claim as her own, not when the ranch is drowning and her father is gasping for air, not when the town already whispers that she is a pretty girl with no future beyond the fences of her family's land. As the news travels through town, people react with a mix of shocked curiosity and cruel amusement. Some say Clara is being offered a chance at security rather than thrown away. Others whisper that being wed to an Apache man is the same as disappearing into the desert forever. Many assume Clara must have done something shameful to deserve such a fate. Clara hears all of it when she goes to town the next morning to buy supplies for the journey, and though she tries to keep her chin high, each whisper cuts her like a small sharp blade that leaves no mark but carves deep nonetheless inside. She is a storm of fear and uncertainty. She knows nothing about Lone Hawk except the stories told by people who prefer rumors over truth. They say he is silent like a stone and fierce like a storm. They say he watches people with the eyes of a hawk that sees too much. They say he lives on land that breathes with wildness and danger. Clara imagines herself disappearing into that wildness and wonders if she will survive this new life or if she will simply become someone else entirely, someone smaller, quieter, forgotten yet. When the hour of departure arrives and Lone Hawk comes to collect her, she is caught off guard because he is not what she expected. He stands tall with a calm strength that fills the space around him like a steady wind. His gaze meets hers not with ownership but with a quiet, steady understanding, as if he knows she is afraid and does not blame her. He speaks only a few words and each carries a weight she cannot yet read. He tells her the marriage will be honored, but he will never take what is not freely given, and the restraint in his voice surprises her more than his reputation ever did in that moment. As Clara prepares to leave the only home she has ever known, she feels the faintest flicker of something new inside her. It is not hope yet, but it is something that keeps her standing, something that whispers that perhaps this marriage forced upon her might reveal truths she has never dared to imagine. And with that quiet whisper she steps into the unknown future that awaits her alongside the silent Apache, whose presence already begins to shift the ground beneath her feet. Clara sitting on the saddle of a strong bay horse while Lone Hawk leads the way across the open land that stretches far beyond the borders of the town. She has never traveled this far from home, and the vast space around her feels both frightening and strangely freeing. The wind carries the scent of juniper and sun-baked earth, and Clara finds herself watching the steady way Lone Hawk moves, as if the land itself is part of him. He does not hurry and he does not stumble. Each step of his horse is sure, as though the ground rises to meet him out of respect. Clara tries to speak at first, wanting to break the heavy silence between them, but each time She opens her mouth, she loses her courage. The quiet around him is not empty. It is a powerful kind of stillness, one she is not sure how to enter. Lone Hawk senses her unease and glances back occasionally, but he does not push her to speak. Instead, he adjusts the reins of her horse when the animal grows restless and offers her brief, steadying nods that carry more reassurance than many men could give with 100 words. As the trail winds deeper into Apache land, Clara begins to notice things she has never seen before. Small wildflowers blooming defiantly along the dusty ground, spiral carvings etched into ancient stones, left behind by generations long before her time. Hawks circling high overhead, riding invisible currents with effortless grace. She has lived her entire life on a ranch, yet she has never seen land breathe the way it does here. More alive, more ancient, more honest. They travel for hours, and the sun sinks slowly behind distant ridges, casting long shadows that stretch like reaching arms across the trail. The air cools and Clara shivers before she can stop herself. Lone Hawk stops his horse, turns to her, and without a word lifts a woven blanket from his saddle pack. He hands it to her with a calm, steady motion. The blanket carries a scent of smoke and cedar, and Clara wraps it around her shoulders, whispering a thank you. So soft, she hopes. He cannot hear the tremble in her voice, but he does. She sees it in the slight softening of his features. As dusk settles, they reach a small camp for the night. Lone Hawk dismounts with fluid ease and begins gathering wood for a fire. He moves with quiet purpose, and every action feels deliberate. Clara awkwardly tries to help, but he gently motions for her to rest. She hesitates, feeling useless, but eventually sits on a smooth, flat stone watching him work. The fire soon crackles with warm orange light, and the shadows around them retreat into the dark. Clara studies him in the flicker of flames. The hard lines of his face soften under the firelight. His dark hair glints with bronze, and she notices how calm he is, even while doing something as simple as arranging the firewood. He is nothing like the stories the town tells. He is not wild or reckless. He is controlled, steady, and unexpectedly patient. When he finally sits across from her, the silence between them loosens a little. The fire pops and the soft night wind hums around them. Clara gathers her courage and asks why he agreed to marry her. Her voice is timid, as though she is stepping into a place she is not supposed to go. Lone Hawk looks at her for a long moment, not with judgment, but with the weight of someone who chooses his words carefully. He tells her that her father asked for help, not ownership. That he agreed because he does not believe in letting a family fall when he has the means to keep it standing. His voice is low and resonant, filled with sincerity that makes Clara's throat tighten. She had expected coldness. She had expected indifference. Instead, she finds honor. She finds a man bound not by pride, but by a sense of responsibility that runs deeper than the rumors whispered in town. As the fire burns lower, Clara lays awake, listening to the night sounds and thinking about the unexpected truth she has learned today. Lone Hawk may be a stranger, but he is not a threat. His silence is not cruelty. It is protection, and as she drifts into uneasy sleep, she feels the first fragile thread of trust begin to form between them, a small beginning woven into the vast desert night. First light, when Clara wakes to the soft glow of dawn spreading across the sky in delicate shades of pink and gold. The air is cool with a gentle bite that makes her pull the cedar-scented blanket tighter around her shoulders. She hears movement near the horses, and for a moment fear flickers through her, but when she peers through the trees, she sees Lone Hawk checking the animals with a calm, purposeful grace. He moves quietly, speaking to them in low tones that she cannot understand yet. Somehow feels in her chest like a steady heartbeat. Clara rises slowly, feeling the stiffness in her muscles from sleeping on uneven ground. She is not used to life without a bed, without walls, without the comforting structure of her childhood home. But something about this morning feels different. The fear that clung to her yesterday has softened just a little, like a thread pulled loose from a tight knot. She watches Lone Hawk for a moment, unsure how to greet him, unsure if she even should. but he turns toward her as if sensing her gaze and offers a small, respectful nod. It is not warm, but it is not cold either. It is acknowledgement, and in its own way it is kindness. They begin to travel again, following a narrow trail that winds between towering red cliffs. Clara is struck by how silent and ancient the land feels, as though every shadow and every stone carries a story older than she can imagine. Lone Hawk rides just ahead, glancing back often to make sure she is keeping up. He does not speak, but his awareness of her is constant, steady, unwavering, and Clara finds herself relaxing without meaning to, trusting him more with each mile they cover. As the day warms, Clara notices a herd of wild mustangs grazing near a distant ridge. Their coats gleam under the sun and their movements flow like water across the land. She gasps, unable to hide her wonder. Lone Hawk guides his horse closer but keeps a respectful distance from the herd. He motions for Clara to do the same, and she obeys with curiosity growing inside her. He explains in quiet, measured tones that these horses run free, untouched by rope or saddle. Yet they are the heart of this land, and his people have honored them for generations. Clara listens, deeply captivated by the reverence in his voice. Then something unexpected happens. The lead stallion, a powerful silver and black creature, lifts his head and stares directly at Clara. The intensity of his gaze sends a thrill through her, and she feels the world narrow to the space between them. The stallion snorts and stamps the ground, then tosses his head in a gesture that is neither challenge nor threat, but something almost like acknowledgement. Lone Hawk watches carefully, and Clara thinks she sees the faintest glimmer of approval in his eyes. They move on, but Clara carries that moment with her like a spark glowing quietly in her chest. Later, when they stop beside a clear stream to rest, Lone Hawk hands her a small piece of dried meat and a waterskin. She thanks him again, this time without trembling, and he gives her a look that lingers a heartbeat longer than any before. She feels something shift inside her, a small awakening that she does not yet understand. As they travel deeper into his land, Clara begins to notice more of Lone Hawk's silent protectiveness. He guides her horse away from rocky edges. He slows the pace when the terrain grows rough. He positions himself so he is always between her and any place where danger might appear. She finds herself watching him more closely, studying the ease of his movements, the strength carried quietly in his shoulders, and the patience in his steady breath. By late afternoon, they reach a high ridge that overlooks a wide valley stretching endlessly under the sky. Clara stops her horse in awe. The land below is dotted with horses, rivers, and distant smoke rising from small campfires. It is wild and beautiful in a way she has never known. Lone Hawk points to a cluster of lodges near a spread of grazing horses and tells her they will arrive soon. His voice is soft but carries weight, like he is preparing her for something important. Clara's heart beats faster. She is about to step into a world that is not her own, a world she has only glimpsed through rumor and fear. Yet as she follows Lone Hawk down the ridge, she realizes she is no longer walking into darkness. She is walking into something unknown, yes, but not unsafe, and for the first time she feels the faint stirrings of anticipation. Woven with her fear, a new path unfolding beneath her feet, guided by the silent man who rides just ahead of her like a steady guiding star. Clara and Lone Hawk arrive at his home, a place unlike anything she has ever seen before. The cabin is built of warm timber and stone, with a roof that blends seamlessly into the surrounding hills. Smoke rises gently from the chimney, carrying the scent of cedar and herbs. Clara dismounts her horse and hesitates at the edge of the porch, feeling small and unsure. She wonders if she will ever belong here, or if she will always feel like an intruder in this quiet, strong world. Lone Hawk waits patiently, giving her space. He gestures for her to follow him inside, and she notices how every step he takes is purposeful yet gentle. He opens the door, and the interior is modest yet filled with signs of careful attention. There are blankets folded neatly on benches, pottery arranged on shelves, and carvings on the walls that speak of a culture both ancient And alive, Clara runs her fingers lightly over the smooth surfaces, feeling the pulse of life that has existed here long before she arrived. He shows her the room. She will sleep in a small space with a window that looks out over the valley and the folly. Horses grazing below the bed is simple but clean, and the linens carry the faint smell of lavender and smoke. He allows her to arrange the room as she wishes, giving her a sense of ownership and choice that she has not felt since leaving her childhood. Home, Clara feels a small warmth in her chest at his respect for her boundaries. Yet she is also keenly aware that she is being observed and judged by the world outside the cabin walls. The day moves on with chores that Clara has never imagined herself doing. She gathers water from the creek, she helps feed the horses, she watches Lone Hawk work with an ease that belies the strength required to handle animals larger and wilder than she has ever touched. Each time she struggles, he does not scold or force, he simply shows her again with patient guidance. His presence is steady like a quiet drumbeat, and Clara begins to feel the first flickers of trust stirring within her. Outside the cabin, the land stretches endlessly, and Clara cannot help but notice the harmony between man and nature. Lone Hawk moves among the horses with gentle authority, and she observes how they respond to his touch and voice. They do not fear him, yet they respect him in a way she has never known people to respect anyone. She thinks of the stories in town, the cruel gossip and whispers, and realizes that they know nothing of the man who stands silently before her, guiding, teaching, living in a world far removed from petty judgment. As the sun begins to lower in the sky, Lone Hawk brings Clara to a small pasture bordered by stone and brush. He kneels and gestures for her to watch a young Mustang learning to trust its new surroundings. The animal is skittish at first, its movements sharp and uncertain, yet he does not rush it. He demonstrates patient skill and understanding with every gesture he allows Clara to approach slowly, teaching her the importance of presence and calm. Clara follows his instruction carefully, and to her amazement, the Mustang responds to her touch and voice. She feels a thrill she cannot describe, a mixture of pride, relief, and the first whisper of belonging. That evening the cabin glows with the soft light of lanterns. Lone Hawk prepares a simple meal, and they eat in quiet companionship. Each movement is measured, thoughtful, and though words are few, they carry weight. He asks about her home, her family, her fears, and she finds herself speaking openly for the first time since leaving town. He listens without judgment, without interrupting, and Clara realizes that trust is being built not in grand gestures, but in the steady rhythm of care and respect. When the meal is done, he shows her the stars stretching across the vast sky above their home. Clara has never seen such clarity, and she feels a small joy in the vastness. It is a night of firsts, a night where fear and awe mingle, and she begins to understand that this forced marriage might not be the trap she imagined. It might instead be a path into a life she had never dared to dream about, guided by a man who honors strength and choice above all else. By the time she lays down to sleep, Clara feels the strange comfort of belonging, at least in part. She is tired from travel and effort, but there is a quiet contentment in her chest, a knowledge that she is seen and that the world she is entering is not a prison but a place where trust, patience, and respect can flourish even in the most unlikely of circumstances. Clara, waking to the sound of horses moving in the paddock outside her window, she stretches and notices the golden light of morning spilling across the cabin floor. Her thoughts drift to the town she left behind, and she feels a twinge of unease at the whispers and gossip that will inevitably follow her, yet at the same time she feels a growing strength inside herself, as if the land and Lone Hawk's quiet presence have begun to root her in a new reality. The morning chores begin quickly. Lone Hawk does not rush her, but he does not allow idleness either. He guides her through feeding the horses, brushing their coats, and tending to the small garden behind the cabin. Clara struggles with some of the tasks, but he watches patiently, correcting her hand here or showing her how to hold the brush there. He does not raise his voice or express frustration, only demonstrates and encourages Clara notices that his patience is not weakness but a form of discipline built on respect and skill. She begins to admire him in ways she did not anticipate, and a small warmth grows in her chest that feels dangerously like trust. By mid-morning, Lone Hawk leads her to a pen where several young mustangs are kept. He explains that these animals are difficult and require both firmness and gentleness. Clara listens intently, trying to absorb his instructions. She approaches a particularly skittish mare and hesitates for a moment, unsure if she can calm it. He stands nearby, silently allowing her the space to try. She follows his guidance, and slowly the mare responds to her voice and touch. Clara feels a thrill of accomplishment and sees Lone Hawk's eyes soften slightly as he acknowledges her effort without a word. Later in the day they ride together across the hills, Lone Hawk matching her pace as she struggles to keep balance on her horse. The wind whips through her hair and she feels the exhilaration of speed and freedom, mingled with the fear of falling, yet he is always near, ready to steady her horse or catch her arm if needed. She begins to see him as more than just a stern teacher. She sees him as protector and companion in this vast wild land. As they descend into a valley filled with wildflowers, Clara notices the quiet beauty of the world around her. The sun illuminates the petals, the grass sways in the breeze, and the distant mountains glow in soft pastel colors. She feels a sense of awe and humility that surprises her. She realizes that the town she came from could never offer this perspective, never show her the rawness and honesty of life that exists outside its fences and streets. Lone Hawk watches her from the saddle, a silent guardian, and she senses that he understands her wonder without needing to speak. That evening they return to the cabin, and Lone Hawk begins preparing a simple meal while Clara tends to the fire. She marvels at how effortlessly he moves through the tasks, as if each action is part of a rhythm. She cannot yet hear he offers her a small portion of meat and fresh bread, and she eats quietly, savoring the flavors and the care in the preparation. There is an unspoken understanding between them that tonight they share space without demanding words. After the meal, Lone Hawk leads her outside to a small hill overlooking the valley below. Clara can see the town far in the distance, yet the distance feels like safety rather than separation. He gestures to the horses grazing in the fading light and then points to the sky above them, where stars are beginning to appear in the darkening heavens. Clara feels the immensity of it all, the vastness of the land and the quiet strength of the man beside her. She feels herself shrinking and expanding at the same time, becoming part of something bigger and yet aware of her own presence in it. Before retreating to the cabin, Lone Hawk speaks softly, explaining that the land demands respect, patience, and honor, and that anyone who wishes to live here must learn these lessons. Clara listens carefully, understanding that this is not merely instruction but a promise that she will be treated with the same respect if she chooses to earn it. She nods quietly, feeling a sense of purpose she has not felt before, and realizes that perhaps her forced marriage is slowly transforming into a partnership founded on trust, understanding, and the unspoken promise of something deeper than fear or obligation. Clara, awakening to the early morning light filtering through the wooden slats of the cabin, she stretches and notices the gentle warmth of the sun on her skin, while the distant sound of running water and low whinnies of the horses create a peaceful symphony outside. She rises and dresses quickly, eager to see what the day will bring, while carrying a mixture of excitement and trepidation in her chest. Lone Hawk is already outside tending to the horses. When Clara steps out, she notices how naturally he moves among them, each gesture filled with care and quiet authority. Hesitates for a moment, unsure how to approach, yet he glances at her with a nod that feels more like an invitation than a command. Clara realizes that he trusts her presence here, even if she is still learning the ways of his world. They begin the day by working with several young mustangs that require patience and skill. The animals are wary and jumpy, and Clara feels the strain in her arms as she tries to steady them, yet Lone Hawk stands beside her, guiding her movements with subtle gestures. He never grabs or forces but allows her to discover the rhythm needed to calm each horse. He explains in low tones that these creatures respond to confidence and empathy, not fear or punishment. Clara listens carefully, absorbing each word and action as the morning passes. Clara notices something remarkable. She begins to understand the subtle signs in the horses, their ears flicking, their tails shifting weight, their eyes wide with uncertainty or calm. Their reactions mirror emotions humans sometimes try to hide, and she realizes that Lone Hawk has taught her far more than riding. He has taught her observation, patience, and trust, and slowly she begins to sense the world from his perspective. By midday, they pause beside a stream that winds like silver through the valley. Lone Hawk dismounts first, helping Clara from her horse. He gestures for her to drink and cool her hands in the water. She notices the reflection of the sky above and the soft ripples on the surface and feels a deep sense of serenity. She realizes that this land has its own heartbeat, one that she is beginning to feel in her chest while resting. Lone Hawk speaks of the history of the land, the sacred rituals of his people, and the importance of balance and respect. Does not lecture but shares stories in a quiet, thoughtful manner, and Clara finds herself drawn to every word. She begins to understand that his world is both vast and intimate, that every rock, tree, and creature is part of a living network, and that she has been given a rare opportunity to step inside it with eyes wide open. The afternoon brings more work with the Mustangs, and Clara feels herself growing stronger, more confident, and less fearful. Each successful interaction fills her with pride, and Lone Hawk acknowledges her effort with a subtle nod, a fleeting smile, and a tone in his voice that conveys approval without words. Clara has never experienced validation in this gentle way before, and she feels the warmth of connection building slowly between them. As the sun begins to lower, Lone Hawk leads Clara to a high ridge overlooking a vast expanse of valleys, rivers, and distant mountains. The view is breathtaking, and she feels a small thrill of wonder mixed with gratitude. He gestures for her to look at a particular painted mare standing apart from the herd, and explains that this horse has been raised with patience and care, waiting for someone special to bond with her. Clara's heart quickens as she realizes he means her, instructs her on how to approach the mare, and Clara moves carefully, mimicking the techniques he showed her with the young Mustangs. The mare snorts softly, then allows Clara to place a hand on her neck and stroke her gently. It is a moment of triumph and trust, and Clara feels a surge of emotion she has never felt before. She glances at Lone Hawk and sees the faintest spark of pride in his eyes, a silent acknowledgement of her courage and connection with the animal. As they ride back to the cabin, the sky painted with the soft hues of sunset, Clara feels a new sense of belonging. She is no longer just a guest in this world. She is learning to inhabit it, to move with its rhythms, and to understand the strength and patience required to live in harmony with it. Lone Hawk rides beside her in quiet companionship, and Clara feels for the first time that she might be capable of more than survival, that she might be able to thrive in a life she never imagined possible, guided by the silent man whose wisdom and care have begun to shape her very being. A sudden storm rolling across the valley, dark clouds gathering quickly, and the wind whipping through the tall grasses. Clara feels a shiver run down her spine as the first drops of rain strike her skin, and the distant rumble of thunder vibrates in her chest. Lone Hawk moves quickly yet calmly, signaling for her to follow him toward the shelter of the barn. She grips her horse's reins tightly, unsure how she will manage the treacherous terrain, but his presence beside her brings a small measure of reassurance. They reach the barn and dismount just as the wind picks up intensity. The doors creak under the force of the storm, and Clara feels a flash of panic. She looks at Lone Hawk for guidance, and he meets her gaze with steady eyes, a silent command to trust him. She nods, though her heart races, and follows him inside the dimly lit structure where the smell of hay and earth mingles with the scent of the horses. They move carefully among the animals that are anxious and restless from the storm. A young Mustang trapped in a corner panics, kicking and rearing its hooves. Clara freezes, unsure how to help. The animal's eyes are wide with fear, and its movements are erratic. Lone Hawk steps closer, not with force, but with calm. Presence, he instructs her quietly to move slowly to the side, to extend her hand, and to speak in a soft tone. She follows his directions, trembling yet determined, and gradually the horse begins to settle under her. Gentle guidance as the storm rages. Outside, Clara feels a bond forming between herself and the animal. A strange calm fills her chest as she mirrors Lone Hawk's patience and confidence. She notices how every slight movement matters, how fear can be transferred, and how trust can be earned one slow step at a time. The barn feels like a microcosm of the world. She is learning to navigate a place where respect and care determine success far more than power or control once. The Mustang is calm. Lone Hawk finally speaks in low tones, explaining why he never rushes or forces trust. He tells Clara about his past, the fiancée he lost, and how it shaped his belief that connection cannot be demanded, only earned, only nurtured. Slowly, with patience and understanding, Clara listens, intently absorbing not only the words but the weight behind them. She realizes that his restraint is not coldness, but a protective armor built from experience and heartbreak. Storm begins to ease, and the light of late afternoon filters through the gaps in the barn's walls. Clara feels the tension in her muscles release as she takes a deep breath. Lone Hawk steps closer and nods toward the now calm Mustang. She smiles for the first time without fear, feeling a quiet triumph that is hers. Alone yet shared with him, he allows her to tend to the horse, one more time, guiding her gently as she strokes its neck and murmurs soothing words after the barn chores. They step outside to survey the land. The rain has left the valley shimmering and glistening with droplets that sparkle like tiny jewels in the fading sunlight. Clara feels the freshness of the air filling her lungs and a newfound respect for the strength of the land and the creatures who inhabit it. She looks at Lone Hawk and sees a rare softness in his eyes, a hint of pride mixed with relief that she has faced her fear and grown through it. As they walk back toward the cabin, the sky clears and a rainbow stretches across the horizon. Clara cannot remember the last time she felt such awe. She realizes that this day of storm and challenge has transformed her understanding of the world and of Lone Hawk. She feels closer to him not through words or declarations, but through shared experience and mutual respect. The storm has tested them and revealed truths that could not have emerged in calm weather. That night, as she lies in her bed, Clara reflects on everything she has learned today about patience, courage, and trust. She thinks about the young Mustang, the storm, the quiet guidance of Lone Hawk, and feels a deep stirring in her heart. A sense of connection not only to the land and the animals, but also to the man who has silently guided her through fear. She drifts into sleep, knowing that her journey is far from over, yet feeling stronger and more capable than ever before, ready to face whatever challenges the land and life may present under the watchful presence of the Apache, who has begun to teach her how to truly live with the morning sun spilling over the horizon, painting the valley in soft gold. Clara steps outside and feels the crisp air on her face. Her heart beats with anticipation because today Lone Hawk has promised to show her something important. She follows him across the fields with the herd of Mustangs moving steadily beside them. The rhythm of hooves against the earth and the gentle sway of the grasses create a sense of harmony that fills her chest with a mixture of awe and nervous excitement as they approach a secluded meadow. Lone Hawk gestures for her to stop, and Clara notices a single horse standing apart from the others. It is unlike any she has ever seen, a painted mare with a coat of pure white streaked with rose gold that glows in the sunlight. She gasps, unable to hide the wonder in her eyes. The mare lifts her head and studies Clara with intelligent dark eyes that seem to peer into her very soul. Lone Hawk watches silently, waiting for her reaction, and Clara feels her breath catch in a way that surprises her. He explains that this horse has been raised with patience and care and has been waiting for someone special to bond with her. The Mare's name is Whisper, and Lone Hawk tells her that today she has the choice to form that connection. The weight of the gift sinks, and Clara realizes this is not a gift of ownership, but of trust, a living creature given to her because he believes she is capable of love, patience, and respect. Clara steps slowly toward Whisper, her hands trembling. Slightly, she recalls all the lessons Lone Hawk has taught her about reading the subtle signs in the horses, the importance of calm presence and gentle touch. She speaks softly to the Mare, murmuring reassurances while extending a hand in careful invitation. Whisper snorts softly and lifts a foreleg, but does not shy away. Clara feels a thrill of triumph as she strokes the Mare's neck, feeling the warmth of the animal beneath her fingers and the steady pulse of life that mirrors her own. Lone Hawk watches her quietly, a faint smile on his face. He says nothing, but the approval in his eyes is unmistakable. Clara realizes that this is more than a simple gift. It is a declaration that he trusts her judgment and her heart. It is a symbol of partnership, respect, and the slow-building bond that has grown between them through days of instruction, patience, and shared experience. When she mounts Whisper for the first time, Clara feels an unexpected surge of exhilaration and connection. Mare moves with smooth grace, and Clara feels herself becoming part of the rhythm of the land, the movement of the horse, and the presence of Lone Hawk beside her. It is as if the world has narrowed to the three of them, and all fear and doubt melt in the warm glow of sunlight and trust. As they ride back toward the cabin, the town in the distance begins to stir. Clara feels a new sense of strength and pride. She knows that when she returns to the town, she will carry with her a story that no rumor can diminish, a story of courage and connection. She glances at Lone Hawk and feels an unspoken understanding between them, a bond built not on obligation but on choice, respect, and shared experience. The townspeople see Clara riding into the village atop Whisper and fall silent. The painted Mare is magnificent, and Clara's confident ease with her commands attention and awe. The whispers that had followed her from her father's decision are replaced by stunned silence. The townsfolk realize that she is not merely a bride handed over for convenience, but a young woman who has earned trust, mastery, and respect in a world they know little about. Clara dismounts gracefully and leads Whisper into the town square. Our eyes meet Lone Hawk's across the crowd, and she sees the faintest glimmer of pride and satisfaction in his gaze. She realizes that his gift has done more than honor her. It has silenced the judgment of the town and shown that strength, patience, and trust are far more powerful than gossip or fear. As she returns to Lone Hawk at the edge of the square, she feels a mixture of relief, triumph, and quiet joy. She knows that the gift of Whisper is only the beginning of their journey together, a symbol of the trust and partnership they have begun to build, and a promise that the marriage forced upon her has the potential to become a union of choice, respect, and a love that neither obligation nor fear could ever diminish. Clara walking through the town atop Whisper, the painted Mare, her confidence and poise drawing every eye in the streets. People pause in their work and conversations halt as whispers travel quickly through the crowd. She feels a thrill of pride, mixed with relief, because for the first time she is not viewed as a helpless girl forced into marriage, but as someone who commands respect and admiration through skill, courage, and presence. Lone Hawk rides beside her silently, his calm authority reinforcing the quiet power of the moment. As they move through the streets, Clara notices the subtle changes in people's expressions. The skeptical faces of merchants soften, the hardened stares of ranchers turn curious and respectful, and even the children stop to watch in awe. She realizes that the town has been silenced not by words or confrontation, but by the undeniable proof of her strength and connection with Whisper. The Mare's beauty and obedience reflect not only Lone Hawk's care, but Clara's own ability to learn trust, patience, and mastery. The townspeople begin to whisper again, but this time their tone is different. They speak of Clara's courage, her ability to handle the horse with grace and skill, and the quiet strength of the Apache man beside her. Rumors of disgrace are replaced by admiration and curiosity. People begin to understand that Lone Hawk has not taken a bride to possess her, but to elevate her to a position of respect and honor. The realization settles over the town like the gentle sun warming the earth. Clara feels her heart swell as she guides Whisper toward the central square. She notices how her hands move confidently over the reins and how she can anticipate the mare's subtle movements. The lessons Lone Hawk has taught her come to life in this moment, and she feels a deep sense of accomplishment. She catches Lone Hawk's eye and sees a small approving nod that fills her chest with warmth and recognition. She realizes that their partnership is no longer just about survival or obligation, but about mutual trust and respect. Square grows quiet as she approaches, and she feels the collective gaze of the town upon her. She dismounts smoothly and leads Whisper to a position where all can see. The mare's coat glows in the sunlight, and her demeanor is calm yet alert. Clara's presence and command over the animal speak volumes about the training and patience behind her actions. Lone Hawk stands behind her watching, silently, his expression unreadable yet clearly proud. A few people step forward, hesitantly offering words of acknowledgement. Their tone is respectful and tentative, yet Clara feels the power shift in the air. The town that once gossiped and judged now watches her as a figure of admiration, someone who has earned dignity and recognition through her actions rather than mere lineage or marriage. She feels a thrill of liberation knowing that she has transcended the constraints of expectation and fear. Lone Hawk finally speaks softly to Clara, acknowledging her skill and courage. The sound of his voice is steady and filled with a weight that surprises her. She realizes that this is more than praise. It is a recognition of her growth, her choices, and the bond they have built together. Marriage that once seemed forced and frightening has transformed into a partnership founded on trust, patience, and mutual respect. As the crowd begins to disperse, Clara leads Whisper back toward the outskirts of the square. She feels a sense of triumph, yet also a calm understanding that this moment is just the beginning of their journey together. The townspeople will now see her not as a victim of circumstance, but as a young woman capable of mastery, resilience, and honor. She glances at Lone Hawk, and he meets her gaze with a faint smile that carries approval, pride, and something deeper. By the time they leave the square, the sun is lowering toward the horizon, casting long golden shadows across the streets. Clara feels the quiet thrill of accomplishment and freedom. The gift of Whisper has not only silenced the town, but has solidified her own confidence and strengthened the bond between her and Lone Hawk. She realizes that the trials, the lessons, and the trust they have cultivated have reshaped not only her place in the town, but her place in the world, and in the heart of the man who has guided her so patiently and silently through it all. Clara returns to the cabin with Lone Hawk following silently behind her. The sky is painted with soft shades of orange and pink, and the valley below glows with a serene warmth. She feels a deep sense of relief and pride for everything she has accomplished today. Her hands are still scented with hay and horse, and her heart carries the quiet thrill of trust earned and respect gained. As they enter the cabin, Clara notices the familiar order of the space, the neat blankets, the pottery on the shelves, the carvings on the walls, all speaking of history, culture, and care. She feels a strange sense of home in this place, a feeling she never expected when she first learned of the forced marriage. She glances at Lone Hawk, who quietly begins tending to the evening fire, the flickering light casting gentle shadows across his strong features, and she realizes that she has come to rely on his presence, not out of fear, but out of trust. Share a simple meal and quiet companionship. Clara moves with a confidence that surprises even herself. She finds that she no longer hesitates with chores or speaking softly to him. She can read the subtle gestures, the slight shifts in posture, the meanings hidden in silence. Lone Hawk acknowledges her efforts with brief nods and occasional approving glances, and Clara feels the slow building bond between them solidifying further, stronger than any words could convey. After the meal, Lone Hawk leads Clara outside to the high ridge overlooking the valley. The air is crisp and the sky is beginning to darken. Dotted with emerging stars, the land stretches endlessly before them, and Clara feels both small and infinite at the same time. She knows that the town has seen her strength, the gift of whisper, and the partnership she shares with Lone Hawk yet. She also realizes that the true journey is only beginning. The life they are building together. She mounts Whisper once more and rides alongside Lone Hawk as they traverse the gentle hills. The rhythm of hooves and the cool night air combine to create a perfect harmony. Clara feels her heart beating in sync with Amare's movements and the steady presence of Lone Hawk at her side. She realizes that the fear she carried at the beginning has transformed into courage, curiosity, and anticipation for the future. When they reach a quiet clearing, Lone Hawk dismounts and gestures for her to do the same. Clara does, and she stands beside Whisper, feeling the Mare's warmth beneath her hand. She turns toward Lone Hawk and notices the faintest softness in his expression, a look that carries pride, care, and unspoken affection. She feels her pulse quicken and realizes that the bond they have nurtured through patience, guidance, and mutual respect has grown into something neither of them can deny. Clara steps closer and places her hand on Lone Hawk's chest, feeling the strength of his presence and the subtle rise and fall of his breathing. She whispers that she wants this marriage not because she was forced, but because she has chosen it and because she has learned to trust, respect, and care for him as he has done for her. Lone Hawk responds by taking her hand gently and pulling her close, their hearts beating in quiet synchrony. The connection between them is now fully mutual, built on shared experience, patience, and the trust they have cultivated. They stand together in the glow of the fading sun and the emerging stars, knowing that their journey will not always be easy, yet confident that they are now partners in every sense of the word. Clara realizes that the forced marriage that once filled her with dread has transformed into a union of choice, trust, and love, one that honors both her independence and the strength of Lone Hawk, and she feels a deep and unshakable peace in her heart. As night fully descends, they lead Whisper back to the stable and step inside the cabin for the final time that day. Clara feels a quiet satisfaction and hope. Her fears, doubts, and anxieties have been replaced by connection, trust, and anticipation for the future. She knows that together she and Lone Hawk will face the challenges of the land, the town, and life itself, and that their bond will only grow stronger with each passing day. Their hearts are intertwined, their partnership established, and their story is just beginning under the wide-open sky of the valley that now feels like home.